Once upon a time,
Thank you.
there was a salamander whose name was Sigfried. And he had a very happy life, though he was a little bit wistful because his great dream was to
meet a human. But he never got to see any because he lived in the lake and it was very yucky lake. But nobody ever came there. But nobody knows why anybody came there.
Why nobody
went.
came
No, why nobody went there.
He didn't know why anybody went there?
Nobody never knew why nobody went there.
Never knew.
Okay. Well, the fact is, that swamp was dark and muddy and very large. And so Sigfried lived in the very middle of the swamp. And no one really could get there unless they were going by boat. So that's why no one came. But Sigfried decided if he ever was going to see a human, he was going to have to move from the middle of the swamp. So one day, he took action. Are you going to do it, Charlotte?
No.
Okay. And moved
to the other side of the swamp, which was about 6 feet away. But it seemed like a very long distance to Sigfried because he was like as big as my pencil.
Oh.
And
pretty epic.
then one day, a alligator came to visit him and tried to eat him. Then
He decided that perhaps he should move back home because he had never encountered alligators and his life was much more content where he was. So he gave up his dream and moved home to his old house.
And then, of course, all his relatives, because he had many relatives, salamanders do that, went, how was your time so far away on the mainland? Wait, did you meet a human? And he said, no, I didn't meet a human, I met an alligator. And they're like, that's a part of human, that's a kind of human, isn't it? Right? It's like, no, alligators, they have teeth and they're really long and they have tails and they try and eat you, and humans don't. So this alligator, tell us about him. So Sigfried had to tell his adoring relatives all the news about the alligator. So he sat down to describe the alligator to them when
A human went swimming in the swamp. We found that his flipper thingies that shooting and kicking him back and forth. What should he do?
So he jumped up and ran to the window because they were inside the community hall, and said, "Look, it's a human! I've always dreamed of meeting a human. Come on, let's go." But then Uncle Sam said,
humans are dangerous. We should wait and get the tractor out.
"Sorry."
And we should make a plan using a pencil sharpener.
So they gathered in the community hall with the pencil sharpener and their pencils, sharpened them as a group, and then they all ventured out of the community hall and approached the swimming human with their sharpened pencils.
with their sharpened pencils, protected against the terrible onslaught of the human. Because, well, Sigfried wanted to meet a human. Most of the other salamanders thought he was just a little bit crazy for wanting to do that. Because humans are, like, huge. And the human was merrily swimming around in the swamp, avoiding the alligators. And then he saw Sigfried. And he's like, that is the cutest salamander I have ever seen. I must take him home. And so he grabbed for Sigfried. And all his family went, oh no, he's kidnapping Sigfried! Ah! And then...
Yeah, they went and attacked the human with the pencils in the leg. And it really hurt because they got a bunch of leads in his leg. Then he went swimming away, but he still had Sigfried. He didn't know it. He was in his swimsuit pocket. So then,
Really, it was a guy swimmer.
there was no water in the pocket, so it was very hard for Sigfried. What should he do again?
Okay, so Siegfried had never been in a pocket before, but he quickly realized because he had researched humans for so many years, he figured out what's going
Salamander
on.
University,
Yes.
majoring in humans.
Okay, anyways, so he figured out where he was and decided that if he wasn't going to ever get into the water again, he was going to swim out of the pocket. So he swam out of the pocket.
And
He swam away from the alligator that was trying to eat him again. And the human almost got eaten,
But he made it back to the community hall, safe and sound, and his family members were so glad to see him that they had a big party and had some cake.
no.
But because the
Agree.
thing
No.
is, the human had been there because I'm bleeding. Oh, he was a surveyor. Because the swamp wasn't going to be there for very much longer. Because the alligators were becoming a menace to the local chicken population. So they were coming to find out what was going on. So the surveyor, he was thinking about that extremely cute salamander he saw. So when he came back right before the bulldozers came, where the salamanders were all out front going, ah! And one extreme, Uncle Sam, who's a little bit blind, was going, is that a human at the bulldozer? Because he couldn't really see and he didn't really know what was going on. And the surveyor swooped them all up in the swamp and put them in a terrarium, which was less murky and nasty than the swamp they had been in. And
Didn't have any alligators.
didn't have any alligators.
And they were all together.
They were all together. They had their community hall. They had the Salamander University, and they could watch the humans through the nice clean glass. Also,
And
there
they
was a
all
frog. And they all lived happily ever after.
And they were fed crickets.
And they were fed
Something.
food, maybe not